Before we get into the rest of the venous sinuses, if we zoom in for example this area, we should see something like this. So here is our arachnoid membrane, arachnoid matter. Here is our pia mater, and there is our brain. This is the subarachnoid space, contains the cerebrospinal fluid, and there is our dura mater, the top layer of dura mater, and the bottom layer of the dura mater, because these venous sinuses are produced by the splitting of the dura mater. The dura mater single layer splits open to open up a space, and that is your venous sinus. Okay, so this is your arachnoid membrane plus that bottom portion of dura mater, like this. So you can imagine they're attached together, so they're not that far apart. And the arachnoid matter protrudes, punctures through the dura mater. That's why I didn't draw dura mater here. I left these gaps to show that the arachnoid membrane, the arachnoid matter punctures through this dura mater, like this. And these bumps, little bumps, are called arachnoid granulations. The venous sinus basically contains the venous blood, okay, and it will drain eventually back into the heart, into the left atrium, into the right atrium. So zooming in some more here, so here is your arachnoid matter, and there is your arachnoid granulation, and this was your subarachnoid space containing cerebrospinal fluid, and this space here is your venous sinus, and there is a top layer of the dura mater, and there's a bottom layer attached to the arachnoid matter. So cerebrospinal fluid coming in this area, whether it comes from this side or this side, will then empty into the venous sinus, all of which will go backwards to drain into the rest of the sinuses. Here one more time. There, this is all your ventricles drain into the spinal and cerebral subarachnoid space, both of which eventually end up coming here to the top of the brain and empty into these arachnoid granulations and then into the superior sagittal venous sinus, which is here. From there it will drain all the way back into these venous sinuses here. So here are those other sinuses. All of these, of course, are opened up by the dura mater, splitting open of the dura mater to open up a cavity which is going to be filled with this venous blood to receive the cerebrospinal fluid. So here's a superior sagittal venous sinus, drains back into a transverse sinus, and then into a sigmoid sinus, because it's shaped like a sigmoid. You can't see the transverse sinus. It basically comes towards us out of the plane, and that then drains the sigmoid sinus, and then that into the internal jugular vein. So that is the internal jugular vein here, which passes, of course, through an opening of the skull called the jugular foramen. Other sinuses present here include the straight sinus that gives rise to the great vein, great cerebral vein, and the inferior sagittal sinus. This is the superior sagittal sinus, this is the inferior sagittal sinus, or sagittal venous sinus. From the sigmoid sinus, you have two sinuses here called the superior inferior petrosal veins. So now I guess they start to become veins, no longer sinuses, but veins. So the superior inferior petrosal veins, they will drain into this cavernous sinus. Here is a big cavernous sinus that sits behind the eye. So the eye would be in this area here. The cavernous sinus, and then from the cavernous sinus there's veins here, the superior inferior ophthalmic veins that drain into, this is going to be the facial vein. We haven't talked about the veins yet, but this would be the facial vein. If you look from the top view, so here is your superior sagittal venous sinus. You cannot see it because it comes out of the page and goes back down, so the way it was cut you just see the front and the anterior and posterior portion. Then it comes out of the plane like this, drains into the transverse sinuses going left and right like this, from between straight sinus, and then the transverse into the sigmoid, which then goes into the internal jugular vein. From the sigmoid you also get this. These are the petrosal veins draining into the cavernous sinus.